Alright guys, welcome back to the Frugal Homestead. So today we're going to be talking about sharpening our hamburger grinders. We use ours heavily in deer season, but at times we don't usually get enough time to grind it all up at that time. So we'll cut roasts, and then my wife will pull out roasts and grind them up with this smaller one that she has that she keeps in the kitchen. When one of these goes dull, you're going to know it real quick because it's not going to do anything. It's just going to like smush it all out the edges. The middle won't grind. It's real easy to tell when they go. And for a long time, I thought you had to send those blades out to get them sharpened. The problem with that is it almost costs as much now to get them sharpened as buying a new grinder. My wife got me this one for one of the holidays. She said she got it on clearance, and I think she paid 20 or 30 bucks for it. It's one of the hand grind type. This one's made by Eastman Outdoors. It's not an expensive one, but it's pretty heavy duty. Now, this one our buddy Matt gave us, and it has like a slotted wheel with a cutter. I don't know if this was made for stuffing or cutting in larger grinds. I'm not sure, but it works really well just for breaking down a roast into hamburger real quick. But both these styles can be sharpened. I'll pull them apart and show you the differences. But in this method, it can be sharpened. Now, if you watch other videos on YouTube explaining how this is done, they don't give you all the information you need. Now, there's other ways to do this. You can do this with some of those discs, like DA discs. You could do this probably with an electric sander or something, but I'm not going to do it that way because I know this way works. The first thing you're going to need is a flat surface. This is not perfect. I actually like to do ours out on our garage floor because it's got a mirror finish on the concrete. And the second thing you're going to need is sandpaper. Now, if you're going to go buy the sandpaper, I recommend going and buying metal sandpaper. But if you're like me and you've got wood sandpaper laying around the house, that'll work as well. So today we're going to be working with a 150 grade and an 80 grade. Alright? These are the two that I normally use. If I don't have 150, I'll use 180. That's fine. So you're going to start with your heavier grit, which is the 80. Now, you're going to take your lock nut off. And I don't know, there's terms, but I was raised that this is your cutting wheel and this is your cutting surface, okay? This is the cutting disc or the head. Everybody has different names for it. I know there's professional names for it. That's just what we call it. Alright, now on this style, that's the head or the wheel, and that's the cutter. Now this style may be for stuff or something else, but like I said, this makes a nice coarse ground. If you want to go fast and just tear through some meat, this actually does a pretty good job. But they both sharpen the exact same way. That's what I'm getting at. So we've got our 80, we've got our flat surface. I don't recommend doing this on nice countertops, nice tabletops, anything like that. And you'll also find a lot of countertops have unevenness. Even if you think they're straight, if you put like a level on the surface and it's not straight, don't use it. We need a flat, straight surface. So the first thing we're going to do is our cutter. Alright? Now everybody's cutter is going to be in different condition. Alright? If you over tighten your nut too much, you'll get little pitting, little nicks in your cutter because it's forcing it too hard. But here's what we're going to do. We put our cutter flat down on our surface on our sandpaper. We apply a little bit of pressure. We don't want to rip the sandpaper. We just want to keep it moving. Go in circular motions. Now here's what no one on YouTube tells you. To do this and do this correctly if yours is worn out even a little bit. Because the concept behind this is like a chainsaw, if you guys know that, or a knife. If you start to go sharpen it before you take it all the way dull, it's a lot easier. If you let it go dead dull, you're gonna have to work to get it back to sharpened. When you do this, each stage and each part, and I'll show you all that, you need to go for 5 to 10 minutes per grade of paper and be applying some pressure. That's 5 to 10 minutes on this. And then when I'm done with that, 5 to 10 minutes on this, okay? And then after that, we start back over. All right? So you're gonna do your cutting wheel, 5 to 10 minutes like this. And then 5 to 10 minutes on this. Then you turn it over because you have to sharpen both sides on your wheel. So 5 to 10 minutes on this. 5 to 10 minutes on this to get all this sharpened. So let's get started. This one's actually been recently sharpened, so I won't need to go for the full 5 to 10 minutes. But if yours hasn't been sharpened before, or you sharpened it with poor results, go the whole 10 minutes on each step of this. Turn on the TV, turn on the radio, sit down, have somebody talk to you, enlist the help of your wife, whatever. Give it a good pressure pull, push down on it some. We don't want to push so hard we rip up the paper. We just want to keep it pressured. And as we do, it's going to take all them bad spots out. Now, I've never tried a harder grit than 80. It may work, it may not. I find that 80 is pretty much all I use in my household, so that's all I use. You also want to change out your paper each time you go to sharpen these. Now, every once in a while you want to stop, dust off everything, and go back to it. We want to get the grit and the other stuff out of the way so we can get a nice smooth sharpen. So just keep going. If you want to go in both different ways of circles, that's fine. It's better to go in circles than to go back and forth though. I just kind of go, clockwise and then counterclockwise. Now you're going to see those are starting to get shiny. We're starting to get an edge on it. Now you would do that for a full 10 minutes just like that. Then you get your 150 or 180, whichever you're using. Put it down, and the same thing. And make sure you're giving it some pressure. Like I said, if you're pushing so hard, you rip the paper, you're pushing too hard. But at the same time, we want that downward pressure. So we would do this for a full 10 minutes if this hasn't been sharpened before. 5 minutes is usually adequate if it's not all the way dulled out. Alright. You guys should be able to see how shiny those cutting surfaces are. Alright? And you can kind of feel a lip there. It's very vague. But this is not like a knife where it should feel sharp on these blades, okay? That's not how that works. So we've got this piece sharpened for me. Obviously you need to do 10 minutes on each kind of paper. Pushing down. Time it. Set a timer. Make sure you're being aggressive with it. Now if you go through this whole process in 10 minutes it is not sharpened, start over again. Do another 10 minutes, okay? Because what it means is your stuff is sharpened, warped, or something's not right, and you need to get it flattened down to a flat surface again. That's the whole trick of this. Now remember, on the head, as I call it, or the cutting wheel, grind wheel, you need to do both sides. It's very, very, very important you do both sides. Because nobody can keep it straight which way you're putting it in. Now these it's a little easier because you'll see black spots over time that'll build up on these wheels, and as soon as you start sharpening, some of those black spots start to disappear. If you can still see black spots on it, it's probably not clean, it's not sharpened enough, it's not cleaned enough. So once again we switch back to our 80, put it down, and just start going. 10 minutes if you want to make sure. 5 minutes if it's pretty sharp already still. I like to keep mine buffed up. I don't want them to go dull, so I have to sit here forever. Now what I like to do is I like to do it all through in one step. You definitely need to dust these off because they'll build up dust fast. But once I get done with my 5 to 10 minutes on this side, I just flip it over. Just flip it right over the other side and do the 80 on the other side. And then we do the same when we go over to the 150 and we just do both sides straight through. You guys can probably see how shiny that's starting to get already. So I'm going to flip it over and go ahead and start working on this side. Now, I know you guys can't see it from here, but I've modded mine. Mine doesn't take a handle no more. So what I've done is the bolt that holds the handle on, I went and got another one from the hardware store, the exact same. Then I took a grinder and cut the head off of it. That just leaves the shank of the bolt. And then I take my cordless power drill, quarter and cable, I set it on low and I close the chuck down on the bolt. And I set it on the low speed and then I use my drill instead of having to hand crank it, and it will chew up some deer meat. I mean, chew it up. Okay, sharp. Let's start the next side. So all you have to do is change out that bolt on most of these, and then you can take and hook your drill to it. I'll put some pictures at the end of this video of this thing grinding meat with the drill hook to it. But if you want to see how I did that, I got a video from my other channel I'll put down in the description box. Click on that and you can go over and see how I modded it to run off of a drill. So as you can see, it's nice and shiny. There's no black, no tarnish, no nothing. So I'm going to do my other side just so I have it consistent. It's really important you don't shortcut the amount of time I tell you to do this. It's also important you don't deviate too far from the sandpaper quality. If you wanted to add a step to do like 220, that's fine. But you get into too abrasive of a sandpaper and you could end up actually putting hard, deep scratches and gouges in it. I think 80 is probably that perfect spot. But that's very, very, very clean. And it's going to make a good cutting surface when the two come in contact. So, almost put it together wrong. You put your cutter back on there. Just not wanting to go back on. There we go. Now, this is important. You want to keep them sharp. Put it on, tighten it up, and back it off. And when you turn it back here, there shouldn't be any resistance. If it holds it and stops it, you're just basically grinding out your cutter. We need it loose for resistance to be as minimal as possible. Alright? So I can sit here and turn it freely now. But if I turn it just a little bit tighter, people always just tighten it. If it's hard to turn, you're just ruining your wheel. So loosen it up so that it freely spins. Now, I want to take a moment and talk about this type because I've seen this type in various other things. Okay? Same methodology. In fact, this one's actually easier because you can actually see the tarnish on it. and you can see what you're trying to get off a little better. So you just knock out the 80. And I'm telling you guys, you want sharp, do 10 minutes per paper per side. This is a long project, it seems like. But once you start doing it, you'll be able to start doing it at 5 minutes, you know, per side. And you'll have 15 minutes, and then this stuff will just eat up deer meat. And we all know that if you ain't cutting all the silver skin off and stuff, or if you've got a fatty deer and you don't cut all that fat off them deer, they can be a pain to grind. But then you think back to when you first buy your grinder, how fast it ate up meat. We can get it back to that. Now this one just actually had a lot of sharpening done to it. This is one of my wife's favorite little tools. Our buddy Matt gave us this and she just absolutely loves it. The only thing we don't like about it is that it's got suction cup feet, but she's learned to use it by herself without me holding it, and she can eat a deer roast up in it in moments and be using it as hamburger. So it comes in real handy for her. It's kind of one of her favorite tools around the house. Alright, so let's go to our 150 real quick. Like I said, this one was already very sharp, but I'm just tuning it up for the video, show you guys how to do it, and show you that even if your plates are different, it doesn't matter. But remember what I said about the first time sharpening, hit it 10 minutes. You'll be glad you did. Because I watched a bunch of videos a couple years ago about how to do this. And I come here and I do it for like 2 minutes. You know, didn't realize you had to do both sides, all that stuff. Didn't work worth a crap. I was so mad. But then after I realized you have to have a perfectly flat surface, and you got to go for like 10 minutes to get it sharp. You know, sometimes you have to go back and do it twice before it'll actually do it. But don't give up, because it will work. And if you use the metal sandpaper, it'll really go a lot faster, honestly. So, we got it all sharpened, got it all together. We're ready to go. Now, like I said, I'll put some pictures of this thing hooked up with the drill. There'll be a link in the video if you want to see how to convert this to use it for a drill. I've got jerky I got to get in the gun and in the dehydrator, so I'm going to get on that. But just want to take a few minutes to show you guys how you can sharpen these. It's not that hard. Take a moment. I mean, it's not hard to see how sharp those are and how clean those are. It's a good cutting surface when the two of these are combined. And even if yours is working really good, take a moment and touch it up. Buff it up with these. Watch how much better it works. So, I'm Tony. This is the Frugal Homestead. If you're not already subscribed, please take a moment and subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you in the next one.